Welcome to this week's show. On Powerboat and Jet Sport World, we transport you across to the Mediterranean, to the west coast of Italy, for the first of this year's Continental Offshore Endurance Championship rounds. One of Europe's most famous endurance races, and it's the Viareggio Bastia Viareggio, the 38th running no less, which gives you some idea of the pedigree, in powerboat racing terms, of Viareggio as a venue. This whole stretch of the coast is very much a holiday area, providing miles of beaches and of course the essential shopping to the metropolitan Italians desperate to escape the stifling heat of the cities in the summer. You couldn't imagine a more typical setting for a Mediterranean-based offshore race. Well, the sport of powerboat racing continues to change and develop. The Endurance Championship, brought back under the promotion of De Simone this year, the Italian-based Continental Offshore Endurance Championship promoter, appointed to breathe new life into what traditionally was the heart of offshore racing. So these big monohulled boats set to run over a course which tests the skills in both navigation and speed. There are some great names that have raced in this class in the past. Some of them are here this weekend, and some new potential boating stars like skier Alberto Tomba. Well, Alberto Tomba explaining here that the original idea was for him to run in the race, but now he's going to be the official starter. He was going to run with this man, Alberto Di Luca. And he says here that he hopes that next year, if the World Endurance Championship takes place, that Alberto will be able to run as part of the team. It will be a major boost for the sport, and it's not impossible to swap sports. This man, Adriano Panatta, is a classic example of how to do it. Former tennis star and the Italian Davis Cup team captain. Panatta making the switch across to powerboat racing back in the late 80s, welcoming his friend Alberto Tomba to the quayside. And Adriano here saying he always has a good laugh with Alberto. He's a great guy. And now that he too has ended his athletic career, offshore racing's bringing us together, just as I did many years ago when I stopped playing tennis. So we all hope that lots of people are going to come along and take part in this fantastic sport. Well, the morning briefing, very much an integral part of any international powerboat championship race, and this one here in Viareggio, no exception. Teams can enter in one of 4 classes: tourism, sport, libera and super yacht. Although the greatest number of entrants here this weekend are in the tourism and sport classes. And it's in tourism that this man, Fabio Buzzi, and his teammate, the almost infamous Renato Della Valle, one of the great racers from the late 70s and early 80s. And in many respects, this new endurance championship reflecting the passion that the Italian nation has for the sea, because it's the Italians that are at the heart of the championship itself. Brought together by Tommaso De Simone, who himself has been a great offshore racer in the past, and those of you back in the 70s and 80s will remember his boat Goldfinger. The power plants on these boats today, both inboard and outboard driven, and what a range of engines we've got. The Cruiser and Yamaha, Caterpillar and Volvo, Sea-Tech, Lamborghini and MTU. So a big range of makes, and the boats gathered together for the off. Chicanese in number 88, the beautiful MTU powered boat entered in the super yacht class, and the waters Well, almost a little too calm for the best of offshore racing, and very stable running at the moment as the boats head out away from the Italian mainland in a straight line out towards Bastia. The race distance some 115 nautical miles, and the boats heading away from the west coast of Italy and out to sea. The water's still looking incredibly calm, and here goes Fabio Buzzi and Renato Della Valle. What a combination of experience these two have got. Della Valle, of course, used to race so successfully in the Don Shed-designed hull Cinzano, winning the Cowes Torquay Cows, a great proponent of Lamborghini power back in the mid-80s. But here today, he is racing a very different machine. Fabio Buzzi, the designer of this boat, not just the boat itself, but the engines and the drives as well. A spectacular piece of racing equipment that revolutionized the approach to offshore racing not many years ago, with the advent of the rubber collar, creating incredible stability to this boat. Now used for fast attack and offshore defense purposes around the world, Fabio Buzzi's design of boats have really changed the way that people approach high speed in the sea. Almost 13 meters in length, some 3.5 meters wide, powered by two 620 horsepower C-Tech diesel engines with tremendous power reserves. The Italian authorities, with one of the longest coastlines in Europe to protect, and a great deal of it done from boats of an enormously wide range and variety, and some of them, well, they really need high speed, and this is where a lot of the proving is done, out here on the race course. And the teams have been released from Viareggio at regular intervals over the course of about an hour and a quarter out towards Bastia, grouped in their different classes, with tourism in the T2 class first of all, then super yacht, then T1, then sport, and finally the open class, the prototype class. A spectacular backdrop as the boats race away from the shoreline, and with the slower classes at the front and the faster classes at the back, we're promised a fantastic finale for this race. One of the smaller boats in the tourism class, T13, that's Bernardi and Garofalo in the Solimar, powered by two 200 horsepower Yamaha outboards. What a contrast to this. Volvo engines, Adriano Panatta in the tourism class as well, so you can see the difference in scale that can be raced here in this new offshore championship. A continental championship that it's hoped will be taken to world status in the year 2000. So 3 venues to count for the championship title this year. First of all, Viareggio here, round 1. Then the teams will move to Naples, further down in the south of Italy for round 2, and then complete their championship title with the Monte Carlo Saint-Tropez Monte Carlo race to conclude the championship chase. The powerful figure of Adriano Panatta on the right of the boat there, as his magnificent boat heads out on this continuously straight line away from the spectacular backdrop of the west coast of Italy. And this is T18, powered by Mercruisers. It's a Tornado, driven by Schiani and De Rosa, another superb example of the tourism class, and running under the name Spirit of Naples. That's the next stop on the championship tour as well, so they'll be in home waters there. Meantime, all they can do is chase hard after the rivals in front. They're back in 5th place at the moment and standing a good chance, if they continue with this performance, of coming in well up the running order in the tourism class. Now, those of you used to following the offshore Class 1 World Championships will recognize the name Massimo Lippi. He's racing here in this boat, the Pershing, in T4 in the Turismo class, a little bit different to the almighty, all-powerful Class 1 catamarans, back in the monohull here, but he's making excellent progress today. The sea conditions really good, the weather absolutely perfect. Bright sunshine, blue seas, beautiful conditions for this first round of the Endurance Championship. Well, we've got the tourism class away and super yachts. Now it's the sport class that wait just offshore for the signal to go and go chasing after the other boats ahead of them. The idea being that they build up to a superb conclusion as they all come together at the end of the race. I don't think it'll work out that way, but we'll have to wait to see, because we're going to take a break now. Join us for the start of the sport class in this offshore endurance championship event, round 1. Welcome back to Italy, to the first round of the Endurance Offshore Championship Series, and this is a spectacular race as the sports boat class heads away from the coastline. This, the Viareggio Bastia, one of the most famous offshore races anywhere in the world, and the scene of some spectacular battles over the years out here on the open seas. Meanwhile, the sports class race hard at it, straight out towards the coastline, and then back home again on a dogleg course round one of the small islands that are situated out here on the channels off the coast of Italy. Number 56, Gliori and Cranucci. Now they're racing in an Abate. There's another famous name in offshore racing. The Abate, 11.5 meters long, up against this Sunracer, number 38, registered in Monaco, and Menegato and Giraldi racing one of the two new design of Fabio Buzzi boats. Very beautiful, with the distinctive cut-off nose, 11.2 meters in length, and sister boat to this one, S3, and this was the hull, of course, registered by Alberto Di Luca, and they'll be hoping next year to continue with their plans to bring Alberto Tomba on board to run in the World Championships, and what a coup that will be. Tomba the Bomber, the downhill skiing world champion, bringing him out on the water is certainly going to be an attractive proposition. In the meantime, this very sleek and extremely fast-looking machine making its way, chasing hard, and at the moment just ahead of the Monaco pairing of Menegato and Giraldi. And De Luca's really going for it. Look at that huge spray of water cutting right over the front of the boat. Well, they certainly seem to be enjoying themselves, but they're giving that boat a tremendous pounding. As I say, that very distinctive nose that I suspect could become quite a feature as a designer style of boat, and unique, of course, to Fabio Buzzi. You can see the driver on the right, throttle man on the left-hand side there. His job is to listen to the sound of the engines and watch for the boat lifting off the water, and then drop the engine, drop the power of the engine as soon as he feels or hears that the propellers are lifting clear of the water. A very skilled job, and one that takes years of training and learning, and sometimes very expensively so, blowing up engines along the way. Sunracer chasing hard behind, number 38, just behind the Royal Oak boat, the white one of De Luca. Another Monaco pairing here. And the beautiful sight of full-bore, open cockpit monohull racing in offshore style of a classic sort. Well, while these boats have been heading at tremendous speed out to sea, there's one very powerful machine that waits behind. This is the prototype, the brand new boat of Hannes Bohink, the Austrian. A spectacular machine. He's teamed up once more with Gianfranco Zanoni and partnered by Marco Johnson. Running in the Libera class, which effectively is an open design, the boat heads out to sea. The most powerful machine here in the Endurance Championship. Hannes Bohink knows that he's got the power reserves to be able to catch everybody else up very quickly indeed. The boat, designed in 1992, has been campaigned very successfully. Bohink has taken this out to the Bahamas, running in the superboat class. And with Marco Johnson in the back, Franco Zanoni on the throttles in the front, and Zanoni, of course, partnered up originally with Andreas Ugland and Jan Hillestadt in their very successful running in what was then known as the Martini Endurance Championship, a forerunner of this new series. And this design of boat is perfectly designed to be a winning package in the endurance form of racing. 4 9.1-litre turbocharged diesel engines and a 2,500 litre fuel capacity. You can see that this is a mean machine. The boat has been modified since it was built back in '92, but that time it won the Martini Endurance Championship. In '94, won the Harmsworth Trophy in the hands of Andreas Ugland, and then in '95 changed names to Admiral Casino Tivoli, taking the Harmsworth Trophy again and the Endurance Trophy in the hands of this man, Hannes Bohink, who's running it now under the banner of West. Third in the World Superboat Championship in '95, second in the World Superboat Championship in '96. Some record, some boat. Meanwhile, up ahead, Royal Oak, still with tremendous pace and managing to keep well ahead of their rivals from Monaco. The two sister boats very even in capacity, and the water still crashing around them as they really power on out towards Bastia. Look at that duck, here it comes. This is no Sunday afternoon cruise. And they're pressing on because you can see why. Not very far behind is this boat, identically matched, similar power, and pushing very hard in what is becoming an increasingly difficult sea to predict. All the boats with satellite navigation systems, but they have to carry full manual navigation as well. So they have to be fully conversant with the principles of manual navigation, because those electronic systems do break down in this tremendous battering that they get from the open sea. Buzzi and Della Valle, the boat performing superbly. You can see how smoothly it runs in quite a heavy sea. But as the teams approach the island coast and Bastia, it's quite clear this is not going to be an easy race to win. Well, the boat's racing hard now, back from the island towards the mainland. Hannes Bohink in the lead. This tremendously powerful machine has overhauled everybody else from a time against distance point of view, and the water looking very good. You can see the mountains in the background as they head back towards Viareggio. Bastia a long way behind them now. They don't need those specially cushioned seats inside the boat to protect them from rough seas, because they're back into the very calm waters, almost mirror flat. You can see the reflection of the boat in the waters there as they slow now across the line. So this is the winning boat in time and distance. Hannes Bohink, the Austrian, in the beautifully designed monohull West. And Marco Johnson sitting up on the back there. He's done a good job with the navigation, although I wouldn't say he's exactly been taxed today with just a couple of turn buoys to find out there. But nevertheless, a great combination of team skill, knowledge, experience, and of course the technical ability of this magnificent boat. Well, Zanoni leaps out of the cockpit, leaving a very happy Bohink on the boat.
Decisamente molto bene. Fino a Gorgona.
Well, Gianfranco explaining here that the race, of course, went very well for them. Up to Gorgona, they were quite content with the pace. And Capraia, a very high sea with force 4 or 5 and big waves. But long open spaces between the waves, so they had to take them very easily. And coming back behind Capraia, everything went well. And in fact, from Gorgona, they almost hit 90 knots coming back. Well, how about the normally very shy Hannes Bohink?
The race in '99 was very rough, and we were very quick in the start, in the flat water. In the flat water condition, we ran around 80-85 knots. Then on the island, it was a lot pumpy, so we must reduce the speed, but everything what we have done in the race was perfect. Also the condition, the cockpit management, and all the technology was working well. So we are happy to finish the race.
Alberto De Luca explaining about the windshield missing and blaming it on a seagull. Well, I don't think that's a story, because our onboard camera shows quite a different matter. The shield broken as a huge force of water crashed down on the deck. Anyway, Fabio Buzzi happy with his race, although he's jokingly saying he was paid by Bohink to make sure he won, and he slowed down Della Valle and made him race around the island of Elba, adding 40 miles. No, says Della Valle, it was more like 90. Massimo Lippi, very well-known face in Class 1 racing. He said, well, we really were on holiday today in this boat, a real pleasure boat, but once they've got a few bits and pieces added to it, then it'll make it much faster. But it really is something new in offshore racing and making it much more accessible to a lot more people, and a very welcome human note coming back into offshore racing. A successful event then for Tommaso De Simone. Very successful for Hannes Bohink. We'll see you next week. We're going Formula 1 racing, the French Grand Prix in Chalon.